All of a sudden, we all connected over this really toxic Hollywood relationship, like falling apart in front of us. But with Jonny Depp, we were all watching it together. And I was trying to show people, what if we could watch all of these trials on TV? You would have different opinions about the Weinstein trial, the Maxwell trial. I had just come out of COVID. I was already hated by this whole new group. And I felt like I was being canceled. So I was like, I'm just going to do these stories how I want. They were not politically correct. I didn't overthink anything. The engagement was insane. There was a point where my story slides were like 400,000 per story slide. I'd have 100 story slides. We lost friends writing in support of Donald Trump. I'm still losing people because of it.
Politics doesn't care about three things: sleep, food, or water. It does care about cocktails, though.
Nobody drinks more than DC. They don't stop. It is the best scene to be in right now, is just sitting on that couch at Mar-a-Lago, just watching.
Well, you remember how pissed off we were election night.
They didn't even ask us to come to the party.
Do you think she'll run for president?
Yes. You know, I don't know when, but I think by that time she's going to be a superstar. We got the files dropping today.
Yeah, that is a thing. I was like a little concerned for a minute. I was like, are you going to cancel because the JFK files are coming out and you're busy reading 80,000 pages?
But I'm like, you know what? They're not coming out till 3, so we have time. I was like, I cannot cancel. I have to, it's something every day.
How in the world do you manage 80,000 pages, though? Like, when it comes out at 3, what happens? Like, do you just start reading from page 1? I figure someone's got to be able to put these files into some kind of AI.
That's what they were talking about. They were wanting some sort of AI that would break it down. I mean, I am not going to sit down and read through 80,000. I'm going to just sift through what's coming in through, there's like professional sleuths that do this.
Well, I mean, like, I've used ChatGPT a little bit lately, and you can just ask a question and bam, you get so much information. So there's got to be a way to like load things in, or maybe even, I guess AI would know it. If it's public, essentially it's inside of a database, and then essentially it would be already known by AI, and you could say, hey, what is the most shocking new fact? And the JFK files in ChatGPT or some version or Gronk or whatever should be able to say, oh, yes, JFK was assassinated by so-and-so.
Well, also, I'm like, we have Elon in there. Can't we get him between saving the astronauts into like figuring out the file, like condensing the files for us?
What is the main thing that you want, like, are curious about, or what is the suspicion that is going to come out within him? Because Trump said, like, no, he's like, I told him to not redact anything.
Just because it's been such a mystery for so many decades, and now most of these people are dead. I just think, for me, it's not even really what they're going to uncover. It's more of the transparency that's coming with it. Like, I feel like this administration is making a big effort to show a new transparent era of government. And I feel like the perfect way to start is with these files being released and saying, like, by now all of us know the conspiracies. We've all, to varying degrees, we all know, different, like, it wasn't one guy and maybe it wasn't even that guy. Bobby Kennedy talks a lot about the CIA involvement and his theories and stuff. So I just think coming clean and saying, like, here's the files, let's talk about it, is a huge step forward as far as what they're wanting to accomplish, which is regaining trust in public.
That's definitely happening, I feel like, at a pretty rapid rate. But, you mentioned Bobby, and there isn't anyone. As you said, I think you said you spent more time with Bobby over the last campaign year than you did your own husband, probably. Yeah. So it's like, did you talk to him? He had to have said things about it. And then I don't even know if you've talked to him since they said they were being released. I feel like that all just kind of came out all of a sudden, and then they're coming out all of a sudden. So it's not like there's been many days, but like, what did he have to say about that?
So I haven't asked him directly about it, just because, like you said, it happened so abruptly, and then it kind of got muddled by the Epstein stuff, because initially there was an order there. It was the JFK files, followed by, I think, UFO, and then Epstein was down the line. So when Pam Bondi came out and announced the Epstein files were on her desk, it just threw everything into disarray.
The days are getting longer and spring is right around the corner. That means more outdoor activities, fresh energy, and a great time to refresh your wellness routine with a great tasting daily health drink. How does AG1 make it easy to support your body with one simple habit? Unlike other supplements that come and go, AG1 is a habit that actually sticks because you can feel the difference. I've noticed so many benefits since drinking AG1 over the past few years. AG1 can help support your digestion, your energy levels, your skin health from within, cravings, and so many more things. Have you noticed any of these? When it comes to my health, I want something I can trust, and that's why I choose AG1. With science-backed ingredients and real benefits I can feel, AG1 makes it easy to support overall wellness every day. And that's why I've been partnering with AG1 for so long. And AG1 is offering new subscribers a free $76 gift when you sign up. You'll get a welcome kit, a bottle of D3K2, and 5 free travel packs with your first box. So make sure you check out drinkag1.com/prettyintense and get this offer. That's drinkag1.com/prettyintense to start your new year on a healthier note.
So I didn't get a chance to even ask Bobby about it, but he's commented publicly saying that he's really, again, happy that Trump is doing this and moving forward with transparency because, you know, that's the whole part of his campaign too, that I was drawn to. And obviously a part of was the transparent coverage. I mean, there's still internal fighting. Like you see Jack Schlossberg, he's furious about the files. And then Bobby's like, yeah, bring out the file. I mean, it's like,
what is wrong with Jack?
So that's an episode in itself. I don't know. What do you think's wrong with him?
Obviously, he's looking for attention. Like, there's got to be something in his core that needs attention that didn't get it. He's a little unhinged. He's a little of a loose cannon. He's, you know, some of that's maybe attention. Some of that's maybe just because he's really an odd guy. But look, like the Kennedy family's gigantic. Like there's just so many. You've seen it. Like it's not like, oh, you're throwing your so-and-so under the bus. It's like there are so many of them. And I know that just from my own close proximity with not knowing Bobby, but through relationships and just like people and so there's a lot of people. So it's like if one is kind of off in a different direction, it's gotten maybe to be expected just because like there's such a big compound of people, such a big group of people. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, does he have a real job?
So that's the thing that I can't figure out. You know, I do know some people, we have some common friends in common, and they're like, you know, he doesn't act like this in real life. I do think he's smart. I think he's really unhinged, and he's sort of like the Britney Spears of politics right now. Like he's on every day. He's just sort of spitting these ideas and insults, and not a lot of it is making sense, but it gets views. I don't think he has a job though.
If he doesn't have a job, then this will get him attention, will get him some sort of cash flow somewhere maybe, or at least like feed the ego. I don't know. I mean, if you don't have a job, you also have time to make a bunch of bullshit videos and say a bunch of stuff. And you also aren't going to ever make any, you're only going to possibly make your family mad, but you're not going to get fired.
I will say occasionally he's funny.
Yeah.
He does. I'm like, damn it. That's funny. He did a really good impersonation of was it Joe Schumer? He has some good
Of Schumer?
Yes. Yep. He has some good impersonations, and occasionally his jokes are funny. But for the most part, he's highly annoying, and I want to smack him. But, he's a character. Everyone's like, why do you post him? I'm like, well, he's a character in this timeline. I think I like to post to everybody and let everybody think what they think about all these people.
Yeah. I think everyone wants to know if you post everything yourself or if you have help, and where is that help? Because, look, I've sat next to you during these things, and I've watched you whittle away with your 2 phones. I think you have 2 phones, and you're just doing it. And like, we'll be in loud, busy places and you're putting music to stuff. And I'm like, I can't even think of a song. And if I do, I need to hear it. And there's no way you actually heard it. So like, I don't know how you manage all of it.
I love that you notice.
So much. It's so much. And you're such a wizard. But do you really do like all of it yourself?
Yes, I've always done all of it myself. Because that's, for me, I love real-time coverage. So it's like 2 things. Sure. I have Substack, which is where I make money, but it's a lot of, intensive work to write long draft and have it edited and make sure that things make sense. And the real-time coverage is my favorite. I feel like I am good at that because it feels sort of like being a DJ, where you're like picking the right songs and throwing things in and mixing things up. So I keep a collection of memes and old Hollywood clips and Kennedy things, and I kind of I have like a mental catalog of when I need them. Like today with the file drop, I was like, I have a whole series about the assassination timeline that I haven't shared. So I'll pull that out. But I think I'm much better at real time, spontaneous coverage than tracking it later, because it's so fun. Like I could sit all day long and just do Instagram stories. That's my favorite, and it comes easy, but it doesn't pay any bills. It's a lot of time that doesn't.
Well, it does. It passively does, because it's through those followers, and that's how you keep people hooked so more often. Is through the stories and through the information, and the followers then drive the interest that goes to Substack, which I just signed up for Substack because of you.
I would have signed you up.
Finally. I don't know if I signed up. I just have the app, and I love to double check that I have the right thing, but I'm pretty sure I do. And I think I followed you.
A lot of good stuff on there. You'll find people you like.
Your way of posting and your love for the real-time sort of coverage is that I get afraid to just post things all of a sudden, or a story or a video or something, because I'm afraid there'll be something in it that shouldn't be in it, or like I was conditioned to have, if I had the wrong bottle of water in a photo or a video, it's like, oh shoot, that's a problem, because of sponsors. So I get really afraid of that. And you're like, oh, I'm the opposite. I forget that I'm supposed to be careful of those things.
Yeah.
And so the real time is like, and it's, you're talking about how like writing the long form articles that go on Substack and all those things, that stuff lives forever. But the stories essentially, like, they come and go. And so there's a little less pressure to be perfect, maybe. And I don't know, I feel like you might have some level of somewhat of a perfectionistic nature and trying to get things just right. And, but yeah, I mean, how, like, explain to me the posting originally in this sort of no penalty, you're a normal human, you're not House and Habit yet, you're not this like, you're not the new media. Before, what was that like? And what would you do? What would you post about? Because you did lifestyle stuff, right?
Yeah, I did. And I've been on Instagram since the app came out. So I've really sort of...
Damn.
Yeah.
What was that, like early 2000s?
2011. We were right on it because we loved, me and my friends loved photography, and we had young kids. So like you're saying, you were trained in a different way, where you were conscious always of what your image was. And so for us, the beginners, it was not that. We were just sharing. It was very authentic always, because in the beginning, I think people forget Instagram had to be posted long before stories even came. You had to post like a photo. You had to take that with the camera on Instagram. So you couldn't even, pull from your
upload.
Yes. So the whole idea was instant photos, which I loved. There was no pressure at all. And so it's evolved into this whole thing where people take it very seriously. But I think the stories are really still a sweet spot where you can just, the second I overthink things, I don't like doing it. So I'll do clips of my home life, my kids, whatever. And then I throw in news and I recycle other things. It's just a curated news, but yeah, so that's what it is. It's not like as soon as you post something on your feed and you have everybody coming with their slings and arrows and everybody wants to fight, that doesn't happen in stories, because it's you sitting alone watching them. There's no one to fight with. So like, you don't have to like the joke I made, but there's like nowhere to rage. And then they disappear. And then people have such a short attention span. So it's
my God.
I can go crazy one day. I'm in a bad mood, or it's like a full moon and I'm, raging about something. And then the next day I'm like, yeah, it's fine. Like we've moved on now. We're on to something else. So it is bad because I feel like I do put a lot of time into curating some of these stories and they just disappear. That's not like a YouTube or...
It's true. Great pictures or
there's
great
freedom in that.
So,
yeah, I pick like my best photos and I have a whole constant...
Well, I mean, you have them. You have them in your archives. So at least they can live forever, but they are gone from the...
But you're right. It does fuel interest. It keeps things moving and pushed over to Substack. So like, you want to read more. I try to give enough of a foundation about certain stories and then push everybody over and beg them to read long form, because everyone has such short attention spans.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so far it's worked. The formula, it's working.
Yeah, it's worked. Then it went into like where I discovered you, which is where I think a lot of people discovered you, is with the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial. I think I was obsessed with it because it was on, you could watch them on YouTube. And I don't know if every trial is like that, but because I'm obsessed with YouTube, I would click on YouTube and they'd be like, watch the trial live. And I was like, okay. And then, I mean, I was watched like an embarrassing amount of hours live of that. Do you like covering those trials? I mean, there was the Ghislaine Maxwell one, obviously the Epstein stuff. And
I love trials. I think trial coverage is a lot of fun, but it's a lot of work. I'm feeling a little drained by some of them back to back. But the difference is Johnny Depp, they were on TV. So usually I have to come out and translate what I saw, because you sit in the gallery all day for 8 hours and you don't have your phone on you if it's like a federal case. And so then you come out and you have to try and say what you've seen each day, which is hard if you're going against mainstream media. You know what I mean? Like, so if there's like all these mainstream reporters, they all are going to have the same story. And if you're one person trying to prove your point or how you interpreted the day, and it goes against all these, you can get into trouble. But with Johnny Depp, we were all watching it together. And so that was the difference. And I was trying to show people, like, see, what if we could watch all of these trials on TV? You would have different opinions about the Weinstein trial, the Maxwell trial, all of them. And I think it was kind of, the timing was really interesting because it was like after COVID, right? Was Johnny Depp after COVID?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Was.
So everybody was really disjointed and disconnected, and dialogue had, kind of dissolved. And all of a sudden, we all connected over this really toxic Hollywood relationship, like falling apart in front of us. It kind of combined all the things I love. I got to do the music. Johnny has great taste in music and art and film. And it's like 2 Hollywood actors. It was everything I love. And I didn't care at all at that point because I had just come out of COVID and I was already hated by this whole new group. And I felt like I was being canceled. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do these stories how I want. They were not politically correct. I didn't overthink anything. It was like, the engagement was insane. There was a point where my story slides were like 400,000 per story slide. And I'd have 100 story slides. I didn't sleep. I'd wake up to 60,000 new followers. It was just insane. People could not get enough of these 2 toxic.
Could you post while you were sitting there? Because you went there. Where was it? Where did they do this?
That was in Fairfax, Virginia.
Virginia. Did you go? You went, right?
I did go. I went the first week. I was kind of onto it before it really sparked national attention. I was into it early, so I flew out and I sat for a few days. But then I realized it was not going to work because everybody could be watching it and I'm trapped in there without my phone. So in that case,
they wouldn't let you bring your phone?
No.
Wow.
So when we were in the hearings, we could have our phone. That was a big deal.
Yeah. Oh, was it? Yeah. I mean,
I'm not used to this.
Like when we went to Tulsi's and sat next to each other there, it was like, I so want to take pictures, but I also knew that there was some level of a camera angle that could pan out and get that stuff. And I didn't know what was right and wrong. And it was
so bad. I was like,
yeah. No. You were good. You were hanging picture phones on your lap most of the time, except for when they walked in, which was cool.
Yes. Well, it was good to be able to track it and be there, but normally you can't. So with that, I was like just staring at the back of his head. I can't see her expression. I can't see everything that's going on. And I'm like, this isn't good because everyone, I also don't get to comment for until it's over. So I stopped going to the trial and but I would still fly out there and I would stay at the hotel where all the lawyers were staying. So I would get all the gossip of the bar and I'd see them. I'd run into them at the elevator.
And the lawyers or Johnny Depp?
Everybody, well, Johnny Depp, I would walk upstairs and I could hear him playing. He turned his bathroom into a recording studio. He had one of the suites. And so I could hear, I'd wander around. I could hear him playing music. I saw he was secretly dating one of the lawyers. I ran into her.
The brown-haired lawyer that was his lawyer.
Beautiful Joelle.
She was so good and beautiful.
But that's why it was fun. And then I flew back out for the verdict. But in that one, it was just, I'd wake up at 6 a.m. I would track it all day long. It was my whole life for those few weeks. And I was exhausted. Some people started taking my kids to school for me. They'd send meals. It was a funny time.
As if you were on some level of like bed rest for something.
They would answer the door. I have like crazy hair. I'm in a bathrobe, like dark circles under my eyes. They're like, here's some, Parmesan chicken.
And at the same time, 500,000 people are watching every single thing you post.
But I was really feeding off of the energy because it was so much fun every day. People they couldn't. And it was like every type of person, with politics or some of these things, you get different crowds. With Depp versus Heard, it was like the electrician cared. He wanted to talk about it. The teachers at school, the doctor, like the Starbucks girls, I get free coffee anytime I drove through because like they want to talk about what was happening. So that's why I'm saying I feel like it did connect people in a really interesting way when we had just gone through COVID and everybody was fighting. And I told him that when I met him. I said, you really did kind of bring the country together. I know that it's a terrible thing you're going through, but like we're all laughing, like having fun again over this.
How did you meet him? Was it by chance or was it planned?
It was not planned. I was talking to one of his friends. He was one of my sources. And they all, I think after the last day of trial, they all ended up at the hotel, one of the restaurants. And I was not prepared. I was literally in pajamas, no bra, and I had a big wool coat over. And I just remember his friend was like, you have to get up here right now. Come up here right now. Didn't tell me. And I was like, I'm not dressed or ready. And he's like, no, you have to come right now. So I come up the stairs, I open the door, and it's the whole, trial cast is there. So it's like Dr. Curry and Camille Vasquez and Benji, all of them. And then I'm like, I was shocked because I wasn't ready for it. Nobody warned me. And then Jonny and Joelle walked in, and he was exactly as I think anyone would imagine. He's a little odd and quiet. He's very quiet and shy.
I almost picture him like to meet you and be like, like kind of like almost like a mumbly whisper, like,
but that's how it was.
Really?
Yeah. And I think I just said to him, I said, I think in a way you've really brought the country together.
Yeah.
We're all talking again. And I know it's been a traumatic experience, but there is some good that came of it as far as, and it also people got to see that what we all thought the story was one way and there was one victim. And it really showed that that's not the case. And that's rarely the case. So for me, it was a good lesson. And like, these are how all these trials are. I wish you guys would watch all of them if I'm covering one. I wish we could all watch it because it's not fun to be the only person with like controversial opinions based on that nobody else was willing to write.
Did you meet Amber?
Okay. Amber, I didn't meet Amber. The first day I came to trial, she kept giving me dirty looks. And then they're like, the friend's like, maybe you shouldn't come to court. It's like sort of a distraction. Like she's like really mad, And then I ended up
taking... A friend of Amber said that?
No, a friend of the Jonny team that one of my sources was like, oh, it's like maybe not good that you're here. And because a lot of my sources were Amber's friends too. I opened up my DMs and I said, anyone who wants to share. So I spoke to a lot of her friends, but they all aligned with what his friends were saying. So that's why it was very interesting. Like when you hear from all sorts of people from a story and they all kind of have the same opinion, it wasn't great. I mean, even last night I was at the chateau and somebody came up, a good friend of Jonny's I had never met before. And he had all the same things to say. It was just, they were a bad match from the beginning.
I'm just looking at it. I'm sure they're both not completely innocent. Like they're not, neither one's an angel, but my goodness. For a minute though, going back to COVID as like this timeline goes, because media's changed. And here you were during COVID speaking out about everything that was going on and getting canceled. Like, did this start to give you insight into kind of how fucked up the media is or news or people or cancel culture? Like, was that your first sort of entry into, I don't know, maybe even subconsciously going, I'm going to do this my way?
For me, it changed everything in my life. It changed it changed my politics. It changed my perspective. It changed the way I engage with people online. And also it really kind of forced me to be truer to myself as far as like what I put out in the world, because I'd always thought like I'm pretty open and honest about what I share. Before all of this, it was family stuff. I wrote pretty candidly about that. But when COVID happened, and I had a very liberal audience, I was not down with any of the things that were happening. So I was struggling internally with all of it. Like, I thought it was all bullshit. And I'm like, oh, now we can't, like, so now we can't talk about vitamin D, and we can't talk about natural immunity. When they got rid of natural immunity and that became a contentious topic, I was like, I'm done. This is insanity. The mask stuff didn't make sense. I'd go to the grocery stores and they'd have like the mazes that you'd have to walk through, and like my kids were at home. And then when they went back to school, they had masks on in the classroom, but not on the playground. They're all over, snotty all over. Like,
the restaurants were my favorite. It was like, wait,
the best.
COVID lives here, but not here.
And then so you had to have your mask on if you're not eating, but if you're eating, no, like we couldn't have salt. Remember, we couldn't have any salts.
No, I don't remember.
They got rid of the salt shakers. It was like 2. But I'm just saying, in my head, I'm like, it is very hard to be an intelligent person during this time period right now. And now you're not supposed to question anything. You're not even supposed to pretend that you think it's all crazy. I mean, it pushed me to go back to who I really am, which is I'm never afraid to say what I think. But I had gotten that way because I had a certain audience and I had brand, and deals and sponsors that expected a certain thing. So as soon as you started questioning a vaccine or the science, I was reading a lot of the science, and the science was disappearing. And I thought that was crazy. And doctors were being punished and stuff for publishing this stuff. So
yeah,
it was good. I mean, I started just speaking. I just started writing whatever I wanted, and I just lost. It was like crashing. I was losing so many followers all the time, but I was like, I don't really want to be on the internet if I can't be honest and questioning a really weird period in time. So
yeah,
it was good for me to realize who I was and what I wanted. At that point, I thought I'm not going to make any money on the internet anymore. And I talked to my husband about it, and I'm just like, I'll do something else. I'll go be a teacher or something. I'm not going to cater to this insanity, never knowing what was on the other side of that.
That's the thing about living in your truth, is that, or at least when there's a transition, that as long as you're staying oriented with that truth, you actually generate more magnetism, more energy for it, and magnetism, because it's true. And I think we're living in a time and era during humanity where our senses to that are getting better. And it brings in just more of what's in alignment, and even more of it usually, which is really magical. People just aren't brave enough to do that. I mean, if people were out there with sitting on some truth, what based on that, having learned what you have, what would your advice be to people that are scared to say the truth?
Well, I think everything you just said, I am feeling and experiencing that. Once I surrendered to no self-censorship and just being completely true, and even if it means being curious and not having answers to things, just presenting what is the truest version of yourself. I can't believe how much has opened up by doing that. So, all of my anxiety has disappeared. I don't question anything. I have like a very inner peace now, because all I do is what feels right to me. And it's not like I'm not going to make mistakes, but I'm not second guessing everything I say or put out. And I'm also not listening to people really. Like, I don't really listen to advice if my intuition doesn't match it, So I think it's crazy to see my life is divided by before COVID and after COVID, which I think is a lot of people, but it's hard because we lost friends. And like, even me, writing in support of Donald Trump, I'm still losing people because of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought that was over. I thought like I had moved past it, but I'm still losing people because like being at the White House was another step. And that was a new shed of, that shed more people. But
freaking fantastic photo, though. So.
I mean, isn't that great? Yeah.
When are we getting our apartment in DC? When are we getting our girl gang apartment in DC?
We should film our apartment hunting. Tell everyone about our plan.
I mean, our DC plan to like have a girl group,
yeah,
where we can all just have an apartment and we can all come and go, a crash pad. I mean, that's what happened when we were there the last time for the hearing. Well, you had been there. You've been there since. I haven't been back, but yeah, we're like, oh my God, we need to. It's so fun. Like, DC is fun.
Isn't it way more fun than anyone thinks? Like, we had so much fun.
Politics doesn't care about three things: sleep, food, or water. It does care about cocktails though. And there's a lot of socializing. And so like the amount of like information you could start generating and just like connections.
Nobody drinks more than DC. That's why in between trips, I have to like detox and like hydrate and prepare for, they don't stop.
They don't stop. It's true. Like they don't care if you drink water. They don't care if you sleep. They don't care if they feed you, but we're going to dinner and it's not dinner. It's just drinks and talking.
Yeah. Not a lot of eating. I mean, we just had so much fun. So you need to come back. There's going to be plenty of excuses for us to be back there.
You talked about having sources. How does that happen? I've been in the media long enough as far as someone being covered that people get information. Journalists get information. They don't always speak to it. Sometimes they don't ever speak to it. So like, how do you get sources first off?
Well, that is true. I think a lot of it, most of it, we can't or don't share.
Right.
Which is which is the hardest part.
Right.
I always say it's about 25% I'm allowed to share of what I know. But
yeah.
So I don't know. Again, it all happens. It's not like I set out to be a journalist, even though I have a background in English and writing. It just kind of all happens so organically without any plotting. So for me, it's a lot of it comes from my audience being mostly women, 95% women. They trust and like me. So they are constantly connecting me with people who know something about the story, or it's them themselves. And I think by now I built up a pretty solid trust with the public where they know, one, I'm never going to share what you don't like. If you're coming to me as an anonymous source with valuable information, I'm never going to overshare. You know what I mean? So they know that they have control over how the information is shared. I take what is useful because I never want to be just taking, a lot of this is great gossip and stuff. And it would make money. A lot of this stuff, is
DC drink chatter.
That's a good series title. I mean, a lot of it, but so I
drinks in DC. That'll be our
DC professionals. I just don't want to put out what is just damaging for the sake of being, like salacious or selling.
We only get so many of those shots, right? Because the thing is like if you have information and it comes out, like you'll get a reputation for being someone that can't keep the secret, can't be trusted, can't be part of the team. And so you only get what would be something that would make you willing to sort of shoot that shot?
I think it would have to be, oh gosh, I know I've thought about this before and it hasn't happened yet. I guess it would have to be sort of a big betrayal of character, somebody that we trust in power who is outright betraying what we either voted on or believed in, or just, I don't know. I never think too far into these things because I just let my intuition guide me. So I don't know. It hasn't happened yet. And I think it will. I think like there's no way I'm going to cover politics for the next 4 years and not have a few instances where things get messy or, it's a struggle to figure out what is valuable. But I also try to keep things fairly light. I am not, I really do love being out and gossiping and getting, talking to like Marla Maples about Donald Trump. Like you get to know him as a person, and even talking to you, like your flight with him was like one of my favorite stories. So it's just like, those are the things I'm personally interested in. I don't, I think that's so much fun to get all these like gossipy, fun stories that are really just an insight into who these people are. I mean,
like how much he liked my widow's peak, that part of the story.
Which I don't see it today, Danica. Oh yeah, it is beautiful. But like only he would notice that. It's my favorite story.
And has already noticed it because it was his favorite thing about me that he's always liked. Always liked.
So when he sees you on TV, he just sees like a...
Apparently, I literally am just a widow's peak to Donald Trump.
And didn't you say he was playing the music super loud? Like he had loud.
Oh yeah. I mean, he was just like it was he plays music all the time, and everywhere you go for every rally, there was always tons of big speakers backstage, like in the holding areas and like the parking areas. That were inside, and you always knew it was his music because it's all of his very eclectic and all over the place, from like rock to classical to opera, you name it, it's all over the place. But yeah, on the plane on the way home from the last rally, he just grabs the iPad. Sometimes someone else does it, but then he'll grab it and he'll just start DJing around. He's like, oh, what do you want to listen to? And oh, what about this? And he plays it, and then there's a TV that he watches, and he'll play like the music videos for it while it's playing, so that it's like a full experience. And as people say, no one ever sleeps on those flights because it's like just, the volume is cranked all the way up.
Everybody complains about that. They're like, it's so loud.
So loud.
He sleeps. And he's like 78 years. I love it so much.
Yeah. I mean, who's been some of your favorite characters along the way?
Oh gosh, there's so many. Well, Bobby Kennedy is a great character. I love writing and covering him. He's a lot of fun. Especially as an intro to politics. It's like, he's like jumping out of helicopters, and I love the Palm Beach women. I love the Palm Beach women. Not even like famous faces, just the society women.
Oh, really? Like it's a good vibe?
Yes. And they have like the best stories because they're born and raised there, a lot of them. So they have old school Palm Beach scandals. And every time we go to Palm Beach, I come away with like a novel of information. I love being at Mar-a-Lago, just sitting, watching. You never know who's going to walk through the lobby. There's like Elon Musk with an X is like running around the terrace, and it's like 12 o'clock at night. X is running around, and Tulsi's like off in the distance. It's just like, it is the best scene to be in right now is, just sitting on that couch at Mar-a-Lago, just watching. Anytime.
I haven't been there yet. Well, you remember how pissed off we were election night, right?
Hey, we were pissed off. That was funny.
We were real pissed off election night. Like we
were like working each other up.
Oh yeah, we literally like spiraled out of control together. We fucking pouted in that stairwell, the three of us with Denise, and just like pouted the rest of the night, and like removed ourselves from the party because we were so mad that we weren't invited.
Like sophomore high school girls, we're like, they didn't even ask us to come to the party. Like, who do they know?
And then I started posting stories because like that's the stuff I don't normally do. But I'm like, I'm so mad. I'm like, here we are, bummed we didn't get
into the yeah. I'm like,
why didn't we get invited to Mar-a-Lago?
Okay, so we do need to go.
We're gonna invite.
We're gonna go.
I want to go with you. I want you to show me around.
Okay, we're gonna go, and we're gonna stay there. We need to stay there because
you said it's so extra there.
It is because of what I just said. Like he flies home every weekend. Like his routine is he wraps up on Friday, flies to Palm Beach, comes back late Sunday night. It's amazing. So he's there for all the parties and the weddings. And it's just like, he'll just walk through. I mean, every time I'm there, last time he took off his hat and his like hair was sticking up, and, it's just like so entertaining. And even the characters that it draws in are just, you're going to love it.
Yeah. First off, have you ever seen him in a t-shirt? Have you ever seen him outside of like a polo or a button down or anything like that?
No, but you know what? Somebody asked Kai Trump that because nobody's really like, I don't even know if I did. I think we did ask Marla Maples that when we were all at the table. I was like, does he wear pajamas? And she's like, he doesn't wear pajamas. So I don't know what that means, but Kai said he wears one style t-shirt, and it is a V-neck white t-shirt with the Ralph Lauren polo, a little red Ralph Lauren polo. So he's a creature of habit, right? I think he has. I don't even want to see him in a t-shirt, actually.
What sign is he? What sign is Trump?
He's a Gemini.
Oh, well done.
Raging Gemini.
Raging Gemini. Loves to communicate. Loves. So, of course, I used to think I would like say, campaign stuff and how much energy he has. I'm like, well, he's clearly in alignment with what he's doing. And that's true. But I didn't contribute the fact that he's a Gemini. Geminis just love to talk.
It's a big deal. It's a big part of this. Like I just always look at him as a raging Gemini. I always say that I can't stand Gemini men, but then they're always in my life. And I feel like they are the most entertaining characters. So I should probably stop. I think I love them. I think I love them.
Are you independent or are you Republican?
I'm independent. I'm still registered as a Democrat, but I don't. Yeah, I still think I would identify as independent.
Yeah. What would you tell? What would your 30-year-old self say to this situation?
I don't even want to know.
She would cry, right? Because isn't that what you did when Trump got elected the first time? You like cried for 3 days.
Yes, I went in the morning. I wore black. I kept my kids home from school. I think it was, oh, you know what? It was right before my birthday, and I had like a very sad birthday, mourned for the country. So I don't know how she would respond, my 30-year-old self. Every day I'm like, I can't believe. When I walked into the Oval Office, I was like, I cannot believe what a difference 4 or 5 years makes. It's drastic.
What are you most shocked by?
I think because all of the parts of me came together on the other side of a very intense struggle where I lost friends and family. And I had to really question everything that I believed, which is not, and I had to do it publicly. I went through it very publicly. It's not comfortable at all. And I just can't believe on the other side of it, everything came together. And so everything I had always loved, which is pop culture and these old stories and, even just Donald Trump. I've always read about Donald Trump since I was a kid. The Kennedy.
He was a Democrat. So
he was a Democrat. Yeah, he was a big part of society gossip. And the Kennedys I grew up with knowing all about them. So all of a sudden, I'm covering a Kennedy and I'm in his house looking at all these old framed letters from JFK and then I'm at Mar-a-Lago. Like all of it is so surreal for someone who loved stories from the time that I could read. And so I think just finding myself and being very comfortable in everything now where I don't have to really, and also I also never thought I would make money as a writer. That's crazy too. When I went to college to be a writer, I was like, well, we're not going to make any money, but it's my favorite thing to do. So, read books.
You have a press pass now, right?
I don't have a press pass. I just have an open invitation to really, when I'm in town, I have a point of contact so I can pitch ideas to, which I think you should get this too. So when you're in town, you can have someone and say, I have this idea or I want access to someone. And they're really going to do everything they can to make sure that it's open to independent journalists. So it's actually amazing what they're doing.
So you mean like the people that are coming into the press room? What do they call it? Press room?
It's yeah, I think it's still the press pool, but
White House press room, press office.
But when I was in town last time, I think I went from the White House to Palm Beach, and then I came back to cover Melania's roundtable, and I was in the press pool that day. But I mean, I still prefer just shadowing someone. I don't even really want to sit in that seat and ask questions. Like, you're good at it. You're really good at it. I could see you there being like, wait, but I just want to follow people around and kind of hide in the corners. Like, I like walking around the Capitol and like knocking on doors,
Fly on the wall that does knock on doors.
Yes.
Was it one of those moments, those like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm here after we watched Tulsi's hearing, and then we're just kind of sitting in Senator Cotton's office and his, like, what is his exact title? I'm still learning, everyone, but he was managing sort of the whole hearing with Tulsi, and we're just sitting in there chilling, and it's Meghan McCain's in there and we're in there, and like, oh, there's just like a whole, like, how weird are these moments? And we're just walking. I thought it was cool even to just, when we walked there, we walked past the rotunda area, basically, right? Isn't that the rotunda area? And you can see where all the pressers set up in between the pillars. And I was like, oh, now when I watch it on TV, I'm like, oh, I get it. That's what.
Yes, it gives you different perspectives seeing it, right? Like, you're like, oh, this is where this happens. Even when we walked out of, I guess it was the front of the White House, but like, you're like, oh, this is where they greet everybody. This is where all the cameras are. And the White House is actually so small. Like, it's like a house. It feels like we're in a dining room. Yeah. And then the Capitol is amazing. I loved that day. That was one of my favorite days. We were eating sandwiches and that all together. And it was like so natural, but also like so crazy that we're just left, Tulsi's hearing. And I mean, that was a great day. And then we ended up at her party, and I love her family. They're like a very, very good vibe.
When did you meet Tulsi for the first time?
I met her in person. I met her in Hawaii I guess it would have been last summer. We were there for a Kennedy event, and Tulsi reached out, and we just hung out for a day, and I liked her right away. I mean, what's not to like?
She's great. She's like a girl's girl. She
She's
gets
so
like better every time too. I feel like she softens more every time. She's, there's just like, and also she's just consistent, which I find to be so valuable.
like Tulsi is always Tulsi, and she's so supportive of women.
Yeah.
She gives great advice.
Like I remember asking her about like politics and like, getting involved, and people kept asking me to run. And I was like, why would I do this? She's like, well, a lot of times people do it for these reasons. She's like, you don't need to. And I was like, thanks.
No, that's how she is. And so that's why I think she gives great. You're like, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know she's, it's
I think she'll run for president.
Yes.
Again.
I do. And I think, I don't know when, but I think by that time she's going to be a superstar. And that's probably the only person I can think that I would go back out on the campaign trail as intensely as I did.
I don't know if politics is new to you, but it's new to me. And like, there's a lot to learn, and ignorance is bliss to some degree, but you also need to know enough to not get taken advantage of and to make good decisions and get things done, actually, which usually means you have to know more people, because that's really how you get things done, is knowing people. I'm like, but if Tulsi runs eventually, I didn't work freaking nearly as much as you did on last campaign, but I mean, I still campaigned in every swing state.
We're kind of at the same point. We were both not political people. Yeah. Like, I don't think people associated us with politics. So when we came to see you in Nevada?
Yeah, in Vegas for the F1 race in
that was like
November of 23.
Yeah, we flew out just for it. We were there for one night. So to watch you. And that was like I feel like that was sort of your introduction to outright, like, I'm going to talk to politicians and we're going to talk politics.
That was the first time I ever did. And then in December, I went to AmFest, which was the first political event I ever went to. And then bam. And then we both, I don't know if it was your first time moderating an event, but Tulsi asked me to moderate for the Reclaim America tour stuff. So she asked me to do Phoenix, but I couldn't do it. And then she asked me to do North Carolina, which was a couple weeks later. And I was like, I can't do that one, which is why I ended up in Vegas doing it. But and then you did the first one in Phoenix, and I had never moderated an event. And I don't know if you ever had, but
no,
we're both popping the cherry with Tulsi and Bobby. And I'm like, oh my God.
I was like, I can't. Well, first of all, I always say I can't say no to Tulsi. So she's like, same. She's like, I think you should do. I'm like, I don't think so. And she's like, no, I think you're going to be good. You're going to be good. And I'm like, all right, I'll be there. Yeah. But no, I think it was kind of good because I already had known them as sort of friends. So it wasn't as scary, but it's like definitely not my favorite thing to do. But if Tulsi goes back out, I would absolutely follow her. Yeah.
Same.
Yeah. So
I'm curious, like, having seen all these characters, I mean, and just analyzing, being the fly on the wall that knocks on doors, because there's different kinds of people, but let's go through a few of them. Like, what are the personality traits of someone that is just overall successful, like someone that has accomplished great things? Like, what have you noticed in all of your journalism and all of your spectating and all of your taking in all of these personalities at a very deep level? What are some of their personality traits?
Purpose is a big thing. Like, somebody who is chasing their purpose and their passion is highly motivated to do whatever it takes to, get to the highest point of it. So whether it's financing or like, me writing, like, I wake up every day and I am excited to chase this passion because it feels like fulfilling your purpose. And so I guess for some people, money is the motivation. That is not the case for me, and that never has been the case. But I do think purpose is a huge thing. Like, okay, look at someone like Tulsi. She's very regimented. She's dedicated to routine. I'm not good at routine, but I just think
me neither.
Really believing in yourself too. I would say that these people really believe in themselves. If you look at, the top, which is
Trump.
Trump is probably the most successful person in the world right now. He's gone through so many tribulations, right? Whether it's financial trial, they tried to persecute him. He's lost, I don't know how many bankruptcies he's had. He turns everything into a winning situation. He believes in himself. And I think that sort of mentality is contagious. And so the people around him kind of pick up on that. And even me on the very outside of it, I look at him, I'm like, well, he stands up for what he believes in. Even if you hate what he's saying, he really is saying what he believes. I don't think he's a puppet here. So, and that's what I respect about him more than a lot of other politicians is they're puppets and stuff. But he's saying, I mean, he's so crude sometimes and he's not always articulate, but he is speaking the truth. These are things he believes. And so I try to channel that in my own work. But I think successful people basically believe in themselves and they have a purpose they're chasing that kind of fires them up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I think that
you can relate to that, I'm sure.
Well, I was just going to say that I think when something seems so obvious or you've dealt with it so long, there is no other way than to just say it. Like it seems so obvious. And I'm sure, I think maybe for someone like him who's been in it so long, who knows so much, who has so much conviction about it, it's like, you don't even think to tiptoe around it. You don't even think to sort of dance around the words and softly land the plane. You just think, I'll just say it because it's just obvious, right?
And it works for him. I mean,
yeah,
it does work for him. So that's why I feel like it's such an entertaining era to be tracking because every day I'm like, I can't believe he just said that. But also I can believe he just said that. But it's just we're so used to this overly produced character in spotlights, even in Hollywood. I think people are really overproduced celebrity. They just don't care. They just don't care.
They're fake. There's so many of them. I mean, in fact, even
they're never going to say what they believe.
The most boring people are usually the most famous. Especially if they're celebrity famous, because they never say anything outside of the box. And they're not going to tell you something new. They're not going to tell you something crazy. You just talk to someone who's an expert in what they do, and they will just tell you the thing. But famous people are not very interesting most of the time.
I totally agree. And I think that was part of my, getting away from Hollywood is I was just so bored. I'm like, there's nothing there. There's nothing unexpected. I like sitting down with people who, even if have crazy theories and ideas, they can defend them well and they're passionate about it. And it's oh, that's so interesting. Yeah. I've never thought about it that way. You are never going to get that with a celebrity. I mean, for the most part, it's just, they're so guarded. There's a lot of closeted conservatives in Hollywood. Gwyneth Paltrow just came out in Vanity Fair today, basically saying, I haven't read it yet, but this was translated through text that she's identifying as Maha. She's a supporter of Maha. It's where were you during the campaign? When he was getting trashed, we were getting trashed. Where were you? A support from you would have been great.
I mean, look what happened to Cheryl Hines.
Right.
And she's just in Hollywood. She didn't even really necessarily even be the one to say the things. It was Bobby saying them. And she was excommunicado.
Yeah. I'm so proud of Cheryl, though. And I told her that. I said, you've appeared at Mar-a-Lago, and that's just that's huge for a celebrity. You appear at Mar-a-Lago and you are treated very differently. But I think...
In what way? What do you mean differently?
I think that as soon as you're a celebrity and you make an appearance at Mar-a-Lago, you are treated as a complete traitor, you in your industry, and it's not even oh, she's married to a prominent person in this cabinet. It's how dare she? She's made it very clear she doesn't agree with everything Trump stands for. And I just don't know why. I feel like Hollywood is so many steps behind the rest of the world and we're already bored by them. And so it's just it's a whole dying era.
Well, I feel like that's what they were trying to promote with anything of this sort of new ideologies and ways of living and whatever. It's everybody else was way behind. It's conservatives are way behind. You guys need to get with the times. And it's all it ended up being was a mess. It's nonsensical. It's not sustainable. And it's a lot of times just not true.
It felt like changing things for the sake of changing things. Well, we don't say that anymore. We say this now. And everything came with a moral lecture. It's you guys are there to entertain us. At the end of the day, you are there to entertain us. I don't want my moral lectures to come from the people in the movies. Make good movies again. Okay. Yeah. Be good at what be good at the entertainment aspect of it. Do not get up and lecture us about what we're eating or who we're voting for or what religion we are. It's just their egos are out of control. And I feel like there is a huge disconnect where we're all interested in real people, like you're saying, experts in these fields and people who are chasing their dreams and making things happen in real life. I'm so bored by them. Even the most famous people, I just like don't care.
I remember those days of like these sort of moments of Hollywood or red carpets or something like that. And it would just be like, these are literally the most boring questions I've ever been asked in my life. Like, what are you wearing? And you know what my answer would be? I bought it.
I feel like you would not be good at these.
I bought it. I don't know. They're just like, who are you excited to see tonight?
Oh.
There's like 5 basic questions, right?
Like the bartender.
It's so boring. So the real question is like, so if these people in Hollywood get, because they control the, you know, some popular belief and opinions of people and media to some degree and companies and whatever. But like, what are you upholding? What are they trying to uphold by someone if they go and show up at Mar-a-Lago or they support Bobby or Donald or like, or become independent or Republican? Like, and why would they be shunned so bad? What is it that they're betraying? What are they afraid will happen with those kinds of conversions?
I mean, even wasn't it Gwen Stefani that liked a Tucker, or I think she made the Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, it was like a week or 2 weeks ago or something.
Find a conversation online interesting without it being political. Like it's so crazy to me. And I remember being in that space though, because I was connected to liberals in Hollywood and that was my audience too. So I can relate because I have been there, and you're just so scared to step outside of the prescribed, you know, agenda. And the agenda is that they hate Donald Trump. Like it's hard for me to realize it's as bad as it is because I'm mostly surrounded by people who are either they really like him or they're open to the idea of why people like him. So I guess I forget how crazy the Trump derangement syndrome really is, especially in that circle. They have these blinders up and he's evil. He's a Nazi. He's a tyrant, and he's everything that they're not. You know, they're good. Because like a lot of these people just want to do things that make them sound good at dinner parties. They've donated to something or they're a part of their names attached to art. So when they all get together at these cocktail parties, they talk about their names being associated, but like they don't actually care about.
Oh yeah. They're also the ones that have done, you know, tons of medicine ceremonies and are really healed, you know.
Yep. So there's a lot of hypocrisy, and that's the one thing that turns me off more than anything is hypocrisy in anyone. And so with Hollywood, I just like, you know, you guys are the biggest. I think they're the biggest cowards.
What is the biggest personality differences between Democrats and Republicans?
I think Republicans are much more accepting. Well, I know that to be a fact because I was on both sides, and I never ever experienced the level of hate on the other side. You know, when I would engage with, when I was on the left, and I would bring kind of question or taunt the right, they'd always come back with questions and they would kind of challenge me. It's like, well, why do you think that? That is never the case. It is like rage and insults on the left. And it's one of the craziest things that I've witnessed is that, because initially I went out to, I couldn't believe anyone would vote for Donald Trump. So I went out to try and kind of learn about these like crazy conservatives, you know, because I thought must be.
Really?
Yes. And so I was like, you know, I'm like, you guys, we have to try to understand them. They're very crazy, but we have to try to understand them. And once I did, I was like, uh-oh. I mean, that is what happened. I went out to try to understand them because I was like, we have to be smarter about how we, you know, engage with them. We have to win. Because I did think the Democrats kind of like their whole thing became, we're not Donald Trump. And it's like, what else though?
Yeah.
And so when I went to do my own personal investigations, I was like, oh no, I kind of like these people, you guys. They're kind of cool. They like guns and they like God and they're like pretty sensible and they just don't.
They actually drink alcohol every now and again. They don't just eat mushrooms and shit.
They're like fun to hang out with. I don't know what to tell you. It's bad. I'm like, they're really fun. And they are also way more accepting and tolerant of different ideas. So I think there's a huge difference. And I think that's becoming glaringly obvious with like the way they're burning Teslas right now. And was like, you guys just liked electric cars. Now you're out burning them. You liked clean environment. You hate Bobby Kennedy for trying to clean up the environment. You're against now clean food and water. That's political. You don't like that he's trying to clean up vaccines. I give up.
What's going to happen to that party?
They need to figure out smarter people to put forward. Kamala
it doesn't matter. She had different accents. It's okay.
I could never get it. And I'm like, okay, well, if Trump doesn't know how to say it and I don't know, it's fine. You know, I feel like that was an insult too. I'm like, nobody voted for her. They just threw her out there and she was clearly not prepared. I don't want to see someone like that struggling to have a 5-minute interview with, you know, a news anchor.
Embarrassing.
With Joe Biden before her was like a dead guy in office. I mean, it's just like they need to figure out sensible. And I think they need to come a little bit more to the middle. It's like they went really, really crazy. You know, they went very radical. And I think if they want to regain, because it is shifting right now, it's kind of cool to be a conservative and there's younger people are kind of falling more towards the right. So I think they need a lot of help. And I'm not offering it.
That's pretty much what I say too. I'm like, I have some thoughts and I hope they don't figure it out because this train is full speed ahead. And no, we need to sort of build up the infrastructure from the bottom up within like Congress and Senate and locally and like make sure that there's like party alliance and party support for, you know, future elections to come. So I really hope they keep spinning their wheels or burning their cars down. I mean, that is literally, honestly, like one of the most spectacular displays of ridiculousness that you've ever seen is like, oh, electric cars by 2035. Everybody needs to go green.
It was like, yes.
Never mind mining lithium. But then they're like, we hate these cars, you know?
They're like keying them. They have like axes and things are blowing up. I was like, you guys, it was literally yesterday. We had moral lectures about how we all had to go electric. It's just like so irrational. It is comical though. It's like so bad. It's funny, you know?
Yeah. It's essentially zero leadership.
It needs so much help. And I just have zero interest. I feel like it's gone too far off the rails. But the Republican Party, I'd like to help too. They need a little help too. I feel like I'm pretty balanced at seeing the good and bad in both. And right now it's not like I'm a full MAGA supporter even. It's just that's who's making the most sense to me right now is the right makes a lot more sense. I like getting back to a place of common sense. Men and women's sports was crazy. Like things were getting crazy. And I still have, you know, a lot of progressive, I guess.
You live in California.
I do. I'm looking at the ocean right now.
Which is beautiful. I mean, I lived in Malibu for a little bit. It was great. I don't love all of California. I like kind of like the Laguna, Newport area is also really cute. Do you think you'll always stay in California?
Oh yeah. I think my kids love it here. They surf and they just can't eat. They hate the idea when we even talk about moving. But I also think
I'm not going to move to the Cape with everyone else and the Kennedy compound and come on. We need you out in Hyannisport.
They do. I fit right in. I felt right at home. No, I think, you know, I went out to the chateau. I said there were so many conservatives there. I went and visited this old painter yesterday. He's like a 70-year-old painter in the canyon, which is very liberal. He had on a Trump hat. I think I have hope. And I think it's kind of interesting to see if like, you know, because wasn't it during the Reagan era when California was red? Like it wasn't that long ago.
It was the biggest mover as far as like the shift in Republican voters was the biggest shift was in California, I believe.
Where we live in San Clemente, it's still conservative.
Yeah.
So I mean, that was hard for me back when we moved in. Our neighbor had a giant Trump flag, and I would have to Photoshop it out of like any photo shoot we did for magazines. Like I'd be like, "Can you get rid of that?"
Well, look, I will say, though, the one ridiculous thing that like my work is not done in politics until the American flag is American and not Republican. That's some bullshit. And
that has always been my stance. Even when I was super left, I was like, why can't we love the flag, too? Why is that why is our flag a divisive symbol?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. You said that the Republican Party still needs some help. So tell me sort of your grand plans. Like, I know you don't think too far ahead, but what kind of help is needed and what would you like to do? And how do you see your role in politics in the future?
Mine is sort of superficial. The aesthetics of it, I think we could kind of refine some of the glamour, and sort of, the Republican women have a unique sense of style and beauty. And I think it'd be nice to see a little more artful embrace of style. And so I would like that. And then I think some of their messaging is a little too aggressive. Some of these like that AI video Trump made, I did not like that. The Gaza thing.
Yeah.
I don't really like the what are the inmate ASMR, like guys in chains. I think not. I don't think everything needs to be so sort of like trolling and boastful. And
right.
I think, refinement altogether.
Win with class.
Yeah, a little more class. And maybe I would love for people to approach, journalists. I'd like them to come in with an open mind and see who some of these people are. Because a lot of these people at Mar-a-Lago are incredibly good people, where they're opening shelters for kids and dogs. Like, I meet all sorts of people, and I just feel like the journalists are not opening to seeing sort of the nuance in the party. But as for the Republican Party, like, I just think they need to calm down a little bit on the trolling. Not everything needs to be a soundbite or a viral meme. But I mean, that is him too. So
yeah, exactly. Let's just leave him with the sound bites.
Yes. I mean,
one-liners.
But yeah, I think style, like, people are sort of turned off. They think that they look at the party as like, flames and eagles and very loud, giant flags. Everything's big and loud. So I think maybe
I lived this life. I drove NASCAR. I'm not sure if you know, but there's a lot of flags. There's a lot of flames. There's a lot of Udos. There are eagles. There's guns.
You lived right in the center of it. You know what I'm
obnoxious racing T-shirts with cars racing across them with logos.
Be so loud.
Yes, I agree.
Right? Like, like, could we have like
Erica
1960? Like, remember, like, what did the guys used to wear? Like, people looked different. The race car driver, everybody looked different. Like, there was.
Well, I think back in the old days, people just all used to look different. They used to look like people used to dress up more. I mean, when you watch all these old time shows now that they have, because they're covering, so many different television shows take place back in like the days of like settling this country and 1923 or 1883 or American Primal, or however you say that. All of those shows, or even Yellowstone, like women wore dresses every day. They're like horse riding across the country in a dress. Men wore suits like every day. Hats, like they, the whole country looked different.
Between what then and what's now, like something a little, everything's just so loud. So that would be my, messaging, smarter messaging. And maybe, I mean, I would still like to see the two parties have a lot more in common. I think we have to open up dialogue and start to understand each other. So I don't always love this like silly memes that come out and it's like constantly making fun of each other. It's funny, but that can easily overtake like the bigger, better conversations we could be having, Yeah. I'm an optimist. I feel like good things are coming. And I guess my place in it is just, I just don't want to curse anything because everything's going so good, but I just want to be where I am, watching from sort of the sidelines, but close enough, in the intimate circles, getting to know people and also getting people to think about people differently.
Well, you do a really good job of that. The amount of, I think that you have huge influence. I know you know that, but just your background that you fill out on people and the balance you strike with giving an opinion, but also being as objective as possible, I think is just you do an incredible job of that. You're incredibly thorough. So you have a huge role. I mean, you are new media. Like you are everything that we've been waiting for, which is like cool, current, unfiltered, yet still giving people like truth. And so, I mean, I know I'm grateful for you and because you're really cool and I love being able to say you're my friend. But, I think that you're going to be around for a very long time. in whatever capacity you really want.
Well, thank you so much. That is very, very nice. And I appreciate that. And I feel the same way. I'm so glad we connected. I love that we connected through this journey of kind of both of us, you know, kind of inching our way into politics. But as soon as I met you, I was like, I love her. I feel like I've known her forever. You have a good group around you. So I hope you're right. I hope we get to move to DC. You know, we have like a chapter of like DC.
Oh yeah.
Right?
I said to you guys, I kind of said it a little bit when we were there, but I have this, I'm like, I love spirituality and ancient anything, and especially Egypt. And I went to Egypt in 2021 for the first time. And when I went there, we went to Karnak, which is was the biggest temple. And I went and immediately I was like, oh, this is the DC of ancient Egypt. I was like, this is where they did their work. This is where everybody met. This is where meetings happened. I was like, oh yeah, it just felt like really obvious. And then when we were there for the hearing, it was the first time that I was like there during the day. It was clear out. Like I'd been to DC before, but I haven't really seen it, and I wasn't looking around. And when with the obelisk there, which is the the huge spire thing that people don't know, it's called an obelisk. Some do, I'm sure. But with that and just the energy, and I'm like, I just feel like I'm in Egypt again. Feels like, I don't know, feels really interesting. So I'm being called there for sure.
I believe it. Take me with you.
Done.
Oh wait, to DC or Egypt? No, we're gonna go everywhere. You're going to
both.
Okay, both.
Okay, both. There's a lot of people that need to feel Egypt.
Well, you inspired me. I had never had any intention to even wonder about it, and then I was like, spent one afternoon with you, and I was Googling it as soon as I left. So. See it, Egypt.
It's there. It's lying right under the surface. It's just there, and I just poked it. Cool. All right, drinks in, and then our show is called Drinks in DC, right?
Well, yes, you came up with so many good ideas. Drinks in DC.
Drinks in DC, or we'll come up with some names, but we should definitely do, or at least have some Substack chronicle of us in DC, the things we do. We can start with that, right? And then we can grow it into something more. Okay. Thanks, Jessica.
Talk to you later.
Thanks, everybody, for listening to the Pretty Intense podcast today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like what you heard today and you want to hear more, please click on the subscribe button.